Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I am a comic artist and film enthusiast. I have not yet decided if I'm going to draw some art for this because I'm doing it at the beginning of December, so who knows. But I would like to enthuse about some film. Let's talk about my top 10 movies of this year. So I'm going to get ahead of this really quick. This is two important things to note. Number one, just a very subjective list. This is my top 10 movies of the year. This is not everyone's top 10 movies of the year. This is not the best made films of the year. These are just my personal top 10 movies of the year. So if you disagree with me, light me on fire in the comments. Like, that's fine. You can get angry about that, but that is on you now because I have now said I'm not saying these are the best movies of the year. I'm not saying these are the greatest films of the year. These are just my personal top 10 movies. The other thing is that I haven't seen so many of the movies this year. This is a very long list of movies that I wanted to watch this year, but didn't have the money for. I wasn't liquid enough to go see every movie that came out this year. So if your favorite movie from this year is not on this list, it's probably because I couldn't go see it or you have bad taste. It could be either of the two. It's a 50-50 toss-up. I also normally do runner-ups for these kinds of lists, so Civil War. Alex Garland's Civil War. I thought it was okay. I thought it was solid and pretty thought-provoking. It was marketed completely wrong, but it was okay. It was alright. It's a movie that I feel like I watched and went, yeah, I think I got that. And then I do keep thinking about it, so maybe I'd like it more on the second watch, but it was good. It was a solid movie, and I liked it. But it was not. It didn't make it the list for me. It almost did. It was close. I'll probably have more runner-ups. I just can't think of them. Brings me to number 10, and that is Hellboy: The Crooked Man. Now, the reason it is so low on this list, even though it is probably the movie that I personally just got the most out of this year, is because I can acknowledge that it is not even close to the best movie this year. A great movie. I'm really happy that it exists. I'm proud of the team that made it. I think it's amazing. I think it's an incredible adaptation of my favorite comic book character. But as a movie, it is not as good as the rest of this list. So it makes it on the list because if a Hellboy movie comes out in a year, it's going to make it on that list. I'm going to put it at number 10, almost as an honorary spot. Brings me to number 9, and this is an interesting one. This section of the list, this early part, kind of oscillates a lot as I was going through. I've shifted a lot of these around pretty significantly. So number 9 is going to be Abigail, a solid, fun, entertaining vampire movie from the creators of Ready or Not, which obviously rules. I love that there is now 2 in what I'm hoping will be a trilogy of people just exploding into a pile of mushy-gushy guts bits. Not particularly scary, but it's a solid action horror comedy kind of deal. It's also one that I missed in theaters, and I think that probably would have played better in a theater. I know Ready or Not played incredibly in a theater, but movies like these I feel like are kind of born to be watched with other people enjoying the moment, and not as much on your couch from Netflix eating a baked potato. I just don't think that was the intended viewing experience. Number 8 on this list, formerly number 9, but I just love it too much I had to bump it up. The Beekeeper. This is the ultimate Jason Statham movie. It is Jason Statham is at his prime. He's doing all his good action bits. He's back in the game from when he was out of the game. I think this is the perfect level of goofy where the movie is like, yeah, he's a beekeeper, and by that we mean like a government agent who used to protect the hive. I don't totally remember what that was about. And what does he do to stay low to the ground, keep undercover? He keeps bees. He's a beekeeper. It's the perfect balance of playing it 100% serious and also feeling like a Family Guy cutaway gag. Number 7 is a cheat. I'm cheating. It's a show. It's Agatha All Along. One of Marvel's better shows, I think. It plays really well in the space that WandaVision created. It does a great job justifying itself as a thing that we all heard and kind of went, okay, why would you do that? This is a perfect example of Marvel doing what Marvel has done best for all of these years, which is announcing a project, having the entire internet come together, collectively say that sounds like a really dumb idea, and then blow everybody out of the water because it's amazing. That dovetails beautifully into my number 6, which is also a cheat, also a show, also a comic book show, about a side villain that you kind of didn't expect to get. It's the Penguin, is the point. The Penguin is number 6. I missed the Penguin as it was coming out. I caught it right at the tail end. Because anyway, I kind of wrote this off as, sure, guess we're doing more of the Batman universe, but it's not really Batman, and I don't know, like, Colin Farrell was good as Penguin, but was that just the makeup? But there were a lot of concerns, a lot of doubts, so I didn't really prioritize this show. I should have done that. This is a fantastic, just truly, like, brilliant piece of filmmaking. Perfect addition to the Batman world where it fleshes out that feeling of Gotham. The Batman really did a great job of making Gotham feel disgusting and horrible, and the Penguin, I think, just really lives in that space. It's on the lower end, on the dirty, grosser end of Gotham. It really beautifully captures the humanity and the darkness of what's going on in that city after the Riddler attacks of the Batman, after all of these horrible things are happening. What is the Penguin up to? And that's not a question I thought we needed answered, but it 100% needed to be answered. It is a great show, again, justifying itself in a brilliant way. Number 5, right in the middle of the list, is a movie that I was super highly anticipating. And the fact that it's number 5 is a slightly disappointing truth for me, because I thought it was going to be, I don't know, different than it is. I was gonna say better, but I'm not even sure that that's fair. I just expected it to be a different thing than it was. Which, you know, I've gone on a long rant multiple times. That's a stupid way to watch media. That's why it's still on this list and so high on this list. I can see through my expectations. Even though I was a little disappointed originally with what it ended up being, seeing it more, thinking about it more, it really is a brilliant film, and that is Monkey Man. This is also one of those movies that the more you learn about the behind the scenes stuff after watching it, the more you appreciate just the hell that it was to make this movie and how impressive it is that it came together in such a brilliant, chaotic way. It is undeniable in my mind that this is some of the most efficient, breathtaking choreography, action, story, character work, just a really interesting, creative, powerful project that I think should be seen more. Number 4 on this list genuinely shocks me that it's as low as it is. It was my number 1 most anticipated movie going into this year. I really had high hopes for it. It delivered in all those high hopes. I just think there's 3 better movies than it, but Deadpool and Wolverine is my number 4, and you'll notice that, well, unless I made the radical bold decision to make Echo in my top 3, which I did not, you'll notice that a Marvel movie is not in my top 3, which is, if you know me, pretty surprising. I'm a shill for Marvel. So it is wild to me that Deadpool and Wolverine is number 4. That doesn't negate any of the beauty and brilliance that is in Deadpool and Wolverine. I think it's a hilarious, wonderfully made film. It does a great job capitalizing on nostalgia in a way that doesn't feel cheap. I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of people calling it a cameo fest, saying it was cheap and empty and the story is lazy. I don't think any of those things are true. I don't think it has the best story ever written, but like, it's a Marvel movie, most of them don't. That's okay, that's not really what they're for. They don't need to be groundbreaking stories. I think they are solid, character-driven stories, and that's what's more important. Also, it's a Deadpool movie. Deadpool's never had the best stories. Even Deadpool 1, the movie with the most story in the Deadpool movies, is a pretty basic story. Like, it doesn't do anything super crazy. It's a superhero movie. It knows that it's a superhero movie, and it acts as a superhero movie. That does bring me to the top 3 of 2024. Number 3, It's What's Inside. If you have not heard of this movie, it is on Netflix, and that is literally all I want you to know going into it. Go find it on Netflix, watch this movie. It is absolutely brilliant. And if you've already seen the movie, give people a couple of seconds to skip forward about 30 seconds. You know that it is a brilliantly shot, creatively edited, wonderfully acted, human shell game of a movie. I don't know how you come up with something like this. It is one of the best projects I've seen in a really long time, and it came completely out of nowhere. That leads me to number 2, and just like on the bottom end of this list, number 2 and number 1 have shifted back and forth so often. At the end of the day, I do have to give number 1 to more technical brilliance. So number 2 is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This is a movie that I was hugely looking forward to. George Miller is one of my favorite directors, not just because he made some of the greatest action movies, but I would argue the single greatest action movie in Fury Road. But he also is a filmmaker that just makes calls. He makes decisions that are weird and strange and sometimes don't pay off. Most of the time they really pay off in a, we're making Mad Max 3, let's get this idea of a Thunderdome and blow everybody's minds and then go talk to kids for like an hour. Sure, why not? Furiosa was very high on my list of anticipated movies. I had some concerns with it being a prequel. I had my concerns with, am I going to be able to see through Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth? All of those were absolutely put to bed. This is a wonderful time. It's a movie that I watched in theaters and have not stopped thinking about. I have now watched it twice at home, once in theaters. I watched the hour-long special features documentary on the making of The Thing. It's a movie I can't get enough of, and that's why it almost made it my number 1, is because I have not stopped thinking about it since it came out. My buddy Lincoln said an interesting thing, though, when we both had seen it, and he said, Furiosa is a good movie, and it proves why Fury Road was so special. And I think he's right about that. I think that is a very astute observation. Furiosa is not Fury Road. It's also not trying to be Fury Road, and I think that's important. And yeah, it feels like kind of a step down from that in the way that watching Fury Road and then going and watching the first Mad Max does isn't the level of Fury Road, and probably nothing will ever be, because that's an unhinged, insane movie to make. But it is still a really, really good movie, and one that I can't stop thinking about. Quick side note, if you want to hear more of my buddy Lincoln's takes, and mine, and also our buddy Preston's, we have a podcast. It's called the Motion Picture Retribution Power Hour, where we make each other watch bad movies as punishment for some sort of cosmic crime. And with that, we reach number 1, probably not shocking to pretty much anybody who knows me or has seen the movies that came out this year, Dune Part 2. I don't even know what to say about this movie. I almost put it lower on this list just because it is a perfect continuation and echo of the first movie. In that way, I kind of felt like it wasn't treading new ground necessarily. The more I thought about that, the more I realized that it doesn't have to tread new ground. The ground that it is treading is absurdly good. Some of the greatest sci-fi filmmaking we've ever seen, if not the greatest sci-fi filmmaking we've ever seen. Denis Villeneuve is a master filmmaker. All of his movies are good. I haven't seen one that I didn't like. This is no exception. Dune Part 2 has to be at the top of my list, not just because it's a great story, it's a great adaptation, it's a brilliant sci-fi movie, but because it just might be a perfect film. But unless they make a bunch of bad sequels and things that really take the wind out of the sails, this will go down in history as one of the greatest franchises of all time. Much in the same way that Lord of the Rings has, in much the same way that at least the first section of Marvel has for a lot of people. Dune is now officially in the books, no pun intended. Perfect filmmaking. And that's the year 2024. I can't say that it was easy to make this list. There were a lot of movies that were pretty good, but not great. It's been a really interesting year. I look forward to next year, but as for the rest of 2024, I have a video coming out on the worst movies of the year. Go check that out. And I guess I'll see you next year. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. It has grown exponentially this year, and I'm really proud of the work that I've done. I'm appreciating the community we're starting to build, and I just want you to know that it really does mean a lot to me. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, pretty much anything, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next. Or do none of those things because I am not your dad. Dune is one of those things. Dune is now officially in the books.